Welcome to take 2 of episode 102 of the BEBC
BS times 2.
Oh my gosh. Podcast.
Snuck up on me.
James, David,
Thad. Oh wait, they're not here.
Most of the volume is gone.
The volume is gone. What did you say yesterday? It is quality over quantity.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is take 2. For those of you who were wondering where the podcast was last week, we actually did a podcast.
and it was dang good.
It was good. The problem was that there was only 4 minutes of it that recorded, and for whatever reason, it shut off.
We should have just posted it.
The 4 minutes?
Call it a day.
And you know, it's actually ironic that happened too, because it only did 4 minutes, and we didn't realize until we were done.
Yeah.
We called Coach Wig at the normal time that we have that we call him, and he didn't answer. And we were like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Meant to be.
And so that was on Saturday morning, and Saturday about 1 o'clock, I got a text from him. He said, Mark, he says, saw you called, and then he goes, I saw my son call at 12:15, and then he realized.
His phone was on silent.
Well, he keeps his phone on silent,
Yeah.
but he wears his watch, and his watch lets him know when he's got phone calls. And he said, I didn't put my watch on all day, and so he totally forgot. And so he said, hey, call me, let's set it up and do it again. So we'll get a hold of Coach Wig here in a few minutes, but we wouldn't have had that either. He wouldn't have been on, and we didn't want people to think he was dodging us or dodging anybody.
Right.
It was technology.
Because we thought he was.
Yeah. Technology was a mess last week. So we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it with the 3 of us, and we'll discuss a little bit of Allen's 43-18 loss to Lewisville from a week ago Friday night. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happened this week in the playoffs. And we've got a lot of basketball to talk today, too, because there's some fun stuff going on with both basketball teams that we can talk about. And then whatever else comes to mind. But
Sciatica.
Let's talk about sciatica.
did you get snow at your house, Alan, this morning?
No.
Oh,
He did.
I got snow on my roof line.
I'm sitting here, we're having breakfast.
Really?
I'm like going, so where'd this snow show go? And he's like, oh, it showed up in my house. Pulls out a picture, and he's got the snow up in the crevices of his roof line. I'm like going,
Mark
really?
showed you pictures of his crevices?
Yes, he did. He showed
What
pictures
the-
of his crevices.
It's going to be a great show, people.
Wow, man, it's starting off.
Like we said,
Great.
quality.
Quality over quantity, baby. So, you didn't get any to your knowledge of your
No.
house. Well, it snowed out here in the Far East just a little bit. So, there you go.
Out in the country.
First snow, yeah, see, country living, baby. You get the snow. Speaking of which, I told y'all, we've been having a hog problem out here.
Yes.
And my neighbor
I'm ready to fix it.
across the street, I don't think y'all saw it. I didn't take pictures of it. Earlier, I think it was Sunday morning last week, his whole front yard and his whole side yard got absolutely destroyed. I mean, it looked like somebody came and rototilled it. And it was like, whoa. And this has been going on in the neighborhood for like a month or 6 weeks, you know, and they got our front yard, not our front yard, but our front flower beds really bad. And so everybody's been getting hit, and we've been getting some trail cam footage. There's a pack of like 20 or 25 hogs that come out of the creek bed back there. Well, we got notified by the lady who's been heading this up with the city that 17 of those hogs will no longer be bothering us anymore.
Wow.
So she didn't say what happened.
Somebody just took care of business.
I think so, because I think it's illegal to you got to kill them. You
Yeah,
can't,
you have to.
You can't capture them.
No,
and
they're
then
feral. They're
loose them somewhere else.
They're a nuisance. You
Yeah.
got
Take them to South Lake and let them
They're
live.
varmints.
So the biggest portion of those, the pack, as we call it, has been eliminated from problems. But man,
The key is taking care of mama.
yeah, you get mom out the way toward face care. But it's interesting when you live in the faux country what does happen out here. But the hogs have been eliminated a little bit. So
they'll multiply by next week.
yeah, probably, yeah.
They're worse
It's
than
not like they're
rabbits.
gone. Yeah.
They are, man.
So Allen loses 43-18 on a cold night,
Windy.
windy cold. Because it's cold today. But the
Not
wind
windy.
Friday night
That was brutal.
always makes things worse. Because it's
I had a draft going up my dress.
that's what you get for wearing a dress to the
When it
game.
happened. Altogether, we spent $85 on hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. Is that what it was?
Dude, we did. We were. Hey, they never ran out, though.
Isn't that good?
That's the best thing is they didn't run
Yes.
out. Unlike other places we've been that are out by halftime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Crazy.
Had a little bit of the old 2013 DeSoto game feel to it. A little bit of the Round Rock Spring Westfield game feel to it. Although that game was much colder. But it was cold, and that wind coming out of the north always
Right in our faces.
Yeah, makes your eyes water and your nose run, and you just like, I just want to be warm. And you see
Got my heat thing, my jiggers.
6 guys up there huddling under blankets. Everybody's like, "Ooh, what's going on with y'all?"
Well, they're close.
Hey, we do what we need to do to stay warm, and we don't care what anybody
That's right.
says. So,
Exactly.
I don't really know what to say about the game other than after seeing what Lewisville did last night to Martin, it gave me even. And we said last week on the pod, I want to say this because there was some chatter on the boards this week about how we didn't
You
give
think?
Lewisville the respect they deserved. And you know what? It has nothing to do with Lewisville. It had to do with what we thought of our team.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't feel like that they would be as competitive in this district as they were in theirs. And I think the district versus district results of last week kind of proved that. As everybody but Allen in our district beat everybody in Lewisville's district, and McKinney beat the stew out of Coppell, who was the other 9-1 team in that district. So that kind of settled that for me. But as far as respect goes, we said last week on the podcast that didn't get published, Lewisville did what they needed to do to win,
They were the better team,
and they were.
by far.
And, I had said the week before on the podcast that their quarterback had only thrown 5 touchdown passes all year, and on their first drive, what do? They throw a 31-yard touchdown pass.
Against us.
Now he's got 6.
Now, what the heck? You're like, where did that come from? Because that's not what.
Always happens against us.
Yeah, it's not what you were expecting. And I think as Coach Wig said on a text back to me, his technology was executed about as good as Allen did the night before. So there was a lot of execution problems and a lot of things. And I look back on it now after Lewisville's 10-0 shutout
Right,
on Martin last night. That defense, they're toting around is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it obviously is causing some problems for some people.
I mean, their defense was giving us problems all night, and it was evident that they were out hustling, and I mean, they were whipping us on the line,
Yep.
both sides, and they were by far the better team.
If you can't win in the trenches, you're not going to win.
You're not going to win.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, you've got to win in the trenches, and they were playing extremely well, and they've definitely kept us in check the whole game. So,
Yep.
kudos to them, and congrats that they won last night as well too.
And it's hard to believe when you look at the stats on this game that Lewisville only outgained Allen by 13 yards. Because
Yeah.
it just felt like it felt like it was so much more unbalanced than that. Allen did have some long scoring plays and long scoring drives of the 3 they did score, but there wasn't a lot of penalties in the game. That really wasn't a factor. The turnovers did hurt. You never want to have turnovers because one, they keep you from scoring, and 2, they give the opponent the opportunity to score.
We're still recording.
We are. It's good to check. I'm glad you're doing that.
More than 4 minutes.
Yeah. We have made it to 9, almost 10 minutes, so that's good.
We have gone double the time from last week.
Only 90 yards rushing for the Eagles, which,
You're not going to win if you can't do that. You can't run the ball.
It only averaged 3.7 5 yards per rush. So it was tough sledding against a team that's proven to be pretty good.
I mean, I said this last week. Trust me, I did.
All right.
I mean, kudos to Coach Wig and his staff. He did the best he possibly could throughout the entire season. I mean, it was a tough season. Number one, he didn't get spring ball to play to get his system in with these kids during spring. Last spring, he couldn't really do anything. He was meeting them over the summertime. They were doing off season. They really couldn't do anything regarding. And sure enough, they get a new offense. He gets 3 weeks to work with them before the first game of the season. So, I mean, yes, there were some situations in that game last week where, plays were being called and kids looked like they didn't know where they were supposed to be. It happens. I mean, it's just, you would hope things work itself out by that time of front. But the reality of it is, most of that Lewisville team has had that same offensive strategy and defensive strategy for 2 years. That coaching staff is, or if not longer, they've been there longer than that. So, it is what it is. He's going to have an off season and a full spring, and and then we'll see what. And next year, these kids are going to be a year. A lot of these kids are going to be, have a year under the belt, and expectations will definitely be as high as they, probably higher than they were this year.
Well, based on that, let's give him a call and see what his thoughts are.
See what he thinks.
Hey, Coach, I was just ripping you. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'll tell him that.
Good morning.
Morning, Coach.
Hey, Coach.
Hey.
How are you guys?
Man, we're doing great. Nolan just went on a tirade ripping you, so we're going to give you a chance.
Not.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
No. Good Lord.
We would never, Coach.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. But no, he just said that. I said, well, I'm going to tell him you said that. We'll see what he thinks about it. Well, Coach, this is the time of year that our wives get to us on Friday night and go, why are you here?
Yep.
And it's never, how do I want to word this? It's always disappointing to lose, but it's really disappointing when it ends the season.
Yeah.
And that made it last Friday night. That ended the season for you guys, and so we wanted to. Again, we had technical difficulties last week, and we wanted to. It's probably been good. We had a week to sit down and think about things. I just wanted to get your thoughts on one, the game, and then two, how you feel the season went for you and your first go around with these guys.
Yeah. Well, the game, it was obviously a tough game. It was Lewisville is a really good football team. They're I don't want to take away anything that we did as a team this year, but I mean, you guys were at the Martin game, and I think you could have painted probably 15 or 16 different ways that we end up losing that game, and there's probably 1 or 2 ways we end up winning that game, and they happened. And I say that to say that Martin was a really good football team, and they got shut out by Lewisville last night. That defense that we saw against Lewisville is, we of course studied them and all that and knew they were going to be really good. And they have this little number 44 that, when you look at a player, you're going to say, okay, he's a phenomenal player, but he's smaller than a lot that we've gone against. And, he was the best player we saw all year. He was just different in the way that he played the game. And we just struggled. We struggled moving the ball consistently. And then what was disappointing is we struggled really slowing them down much, so you couple those two things together and just could never really get a grip. But, again, it was it wasn't anything that you look at and you point at performance of kids. It was just we didn't find a way to get it done. But sad in that regard. In terms of the season, just devastated that it's over, and just so sick that it ended, and it would be that way if it ended 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. If you're not holding up something, you're going to feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But you obviously want to get as many weeks together as you can. In saying all that, I'm also very proud of the team. I think that, again, how long I knew them and didn't know much, but I constantly get bombarded with people who were here in different roles with the team last year, and would tell me things coming in. You're going to be lucky to do this. You're going to be lucky to do this. You'd be lucky to finish at this record. You'd be lucky to do those different things, and none of them mentioned numbers that these guys did this year. Now, to say that, I think that, I point back to, again, the Martin game was a really good win for this football team. The CE King game, which ended up being lopsided, was still a really good win for this team, especially, as early as we got with these guys, as soon as we were in our life together, and then they play a really high-profile game against Bosco, and then turn around and play the CE King that's going to come to their place, and supposed to be a really good football team as well, and to play the way they did there was really good. And then the McKinney game was an outstanding win. I think that I think people probably realize how good they are, but I'm not positive. But McKinney is a really, really, really good football team, and going to be a tough out for people in the playoffs, in my opinion. But so they, played some games, and then obviously won some others along the way. But those were three really good football teams that I'm just really proud of the way the guys found a way to win those. And then the Prosper one was one that was just tough. We just totally laid an egg, and in terms of special teams, I think they just they got us there, and still had our chances, still had a chance to win, and the reality is you again, things happen. You are where you are, and if you find a way to win the Prosper game, you're having another week with the team. You're for no other reason than that Lewisville is on the side they're on, and it's just it was a little bit different path. Same as for Allen last year. You get in that first place seed, and it was completely different journey than the second. I think that it will be Lewisville Prosper in the fourth round, unless, I don't see there being an unless. I think it'll be those two. So you point to that one as one that not finding a way to get that game won, just in and of itself, probably eliminates a few weeks from your season. Not to say that you lose it and you shouldn't have beaten Lewisville. I'm not saying that at all, but it would have been a little bit different path had you done that.
Sure.
What's that?
Question?
Question, well. So what, Coach, if there's one thing you could do looking back, one thing that you could do differently, what do you think you might do?
I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't even want to. I think if I'm just going to be honest, the answer would be probably not come into a place in the summertime. I'm just, if I'm just going to answer the question truthfully.
No, thank you.
Not that. It's just,
it's hard.
These kids needed somebody, right? That they were going to have to hire somebody. So I'm glad that I did, and I wouldn't do anything differently. But if you're going to say, hey, what would you have done? I wouldn't take a job that time of year ever again. There's just, it's just, there's just so many internal struggles that I dealt with, because literally, the half the season is over at that point.
Yeah.
So they, you've prepared from the last game they played through the end of May as a football team, as everything they believe is going to be the football team, and the foundation is laid. And if all of us went out and decided to start designing floor plans of a house, we would all design it slightly different, and they spent 6 months designing the perfect floor plan and drawing it and teaching how they're going to build it and do all that. And then all of a sudden you have someone new come in, and it's tough, so, the struggle was constantly, how do you stay connected to what they did with so few people left? The day that Coach Morris left, it was the number was 6 other resignations or announcements on, that had already decided they were leaving, but announced literally to the kids that morning they're leaving as well. So that was just, you went through all this, and you got your carpenter and your framer and your plumber, and all those people had been working all 6 months, and then all of a sudden they all leave at the same time, and it was just tough. It's just tough of trying to piece together what you think it has been supposed to be like, with trying to keep that element, and then deciding when it's okay to try to redraw the plans, and it was just tough. It's just a tough balance, and so that, my focus when I got here and did that was that I just wanted to focus on the kids. I just wanted to focus on relationships, and I just wanted to do everything I could to try to build relationships in a really tough time, and make the season as enjoyable as it could be for primarily those seniors. So that was the path that I went, and I don't think coming in and when I did that I would have done it differently, but I think it just simply would have been that it's just a tough deal. But again, I'm glad I'm here, obviously, and I'm glad I did it, because they were gonna, they weren't gonna go without a coach. They're gonna get one, and it's gonna be somebody. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to be here and had the opportunity to invest in those senior lives the way we did.
Coach, you just reiterated the fact that smart people think alike.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But no, going on, and that's kind of what I was saying about the situation. Yes, we are ecstatic that you're here as well too, but we also understand that it was a tough situation coming into, because the timing of everything and not having as much time as other coaches have and so forth. But with all that being said, the regular season's over. Now it's off-season time. What's the game plan moving forward? Because everybody does it a little differently. I know.
That's right.
But what do you foresee? What are you looking forward to this off-season and spring ball and accomplishing during that time frame?
Well, just the opposite of everything I said.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
So right now it's been I do one-on-one meetings with the coaches. I do meetings with the seniors. I do meeting with the returning players. And it's just gathering information, but then also sharing things. A two-way conversations in all of those. But then also have spent a lot of time visiting with others who have been here and been involved with other coaches who have been involved with off-season here, coaches who have designed the off-season here, just finding why they did things certain ways, because logistically, this place is different than any place in the world, right? It's just, not just a little bit different because of the numbers and the space. It's just those two things cause issues this time of year. So, talking, how did y'all work? How did you find the best way? And, just for instance, Coach Gamble, who cut his teeth here, right, and then came back here as a head coach here, was constantly evolving, and in a way, even to where his last year, he finally said, "I feel like this is the best way you do it," and the way he did it, and so it's just what I'm realizing is that it's just because so many different things change, but again, because of the numbers and facilities, it's just a challenge that you find. All right, how do I plug the pieces in that are important? What he felt were important to him, and then me is just piecing in what I really really believe in, but then also wanting to keep the truths, the standards of what have been Allen Eagle football tied in, and make sure that those things are all over what we're doing on a daily basis. So kind of again to summarize what I'm doing right now is this week we maxed the kids. I'm doing all those different meetings that I mentioned, and it's just now getting ready. We have the week off for Thanksgiving, and then you come back and you're saying we want to. We start with typically we hope this week is we start up after Christmas, but if we have time before Christmas, it's just a heavy focus on weight room. We will use some time just kind of talking about the standard, talking about the daily expectation of what's expected in terms of everything tied to the program, and part of that is coming from talking to alumni, and going to try to get a couple of them involved even in some more ideas, things that really stood out to them in different ways. But so that'll be taking place immediately, and then we get into after Christmas where we we'll go through a phase of our off season, which is just it's just where it's a high focus on attention to detail, to doing things exactly right all the time, and the consequences that come if one person does anything the least bit wrong. It's a phase of boot camp a phase of off season we call boot camp, and so it's just getting ready for those things and how they fit here logistically, and then also just making sure we're hitting on the things that are important to me, but then also important to the Allen Eagle way.
Cool. Yeah, well, we're waiting on the call to get our interview scheduled with you.
Yeah.
So just let us know.
Yeah.
Have your people talk to our people.
This is it.
Okay.
Oh, is this it?
Yeah.
All right, Coach. We're gonna get into picks now, and for the year now, you are now at 8-6. So you're sitting above 500. I'm not sure I still want to go to Vegas with you.
He's doing better than most of the guys that are paid doing this.
That's true. We missed last week, obviously, but the week before you won Texas over Kansas State. You picked Georgia over Tennessee, so those were good picks. Bama got you when they were at LSU.
Yeah.
And then you had to go blood thicker than water with Tech and TCU, and that one didn't go very well either. So
No.
So this week we got 4 games for you, and they're all pretty important as you look around the country. First one, we're going to start down in Waco. TCU heads down to Baylor.
Yeah.
It's typically a pretty tight game. In fact, it's on game day right as
now.
we speak. We can see that in the background. But your pick there.
Well, those are, and it's funny because times change so much, but those are 2 programs that there for a while were really, really, really not liking one another.
Yep.
I've got to go with Baylor. I just think that they've probably disappointed in some ways some things have gone this year, and I think this would be a big feather in their cap as they get ready for bowl season and recruiting and defending home turf. And I think that probably TCU is a little bit sneaking into uncharted waters and maybe feeling a little bit extra pressure. I feel like Baylor's going to find a way to win it.
Well, I kind of agree. I told Nolan earlier. I said TCU's just been finding a way to win, and at some point that comes up to bite you.
I got to stick with TCU.
Yeah, well,
you either find a way. It either comes up to bite you, or you just begin to believe that that's going to happen every time. And it gives you that extra little bit of burst. So.
Yep. Yeah. We'll head out west to Mr. Wright's former territory here in the Battle of the L.A. with USC and UCLA.
Yeah.
Playing in the Rose Bowl.
Yep. I'm going
in
USC.
front of 5,000.
I knew you were classy. I knew you were classy.
He's picking the Trojans on that one. All right, Bedlam tonight in Norman.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is this one's tough for me for multiple reasons. But oh man, I'm going OU.
Oh my goodness.
Woo! Now OSU is injured tonight.
Yeah.
They've got some hurt players tonight, so that could be a pretty good pick.
The key is the quarterback. If
Yep.
Spencer, if he's playing, and he came in I think late last week, and he's about a 9-year senior.
Yeah.
And he's one of those that I got to see him a lot last year, and he's one of those that kind of finds a way to win, and so he's going to. No matter how many are injured, if he's playing a lot, he's going to give him a chance.
Coach, you say 9-year senior, and Allen played Ryan in the playoffs when he was a sophomore.
That probably was 9 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a long time, so I remember him well. One other game for this week. Texas is headed up to Kansas.
Yeah. That's unbelievable that that's a discussion.
Isn't it, though?
It is crazy. But it certainly is, and Kansas has done good things, but I don't think they can beat Texas. I know they beat them last year in Austin even, I think.
Yep.
But I will take Texas in that one and feel comfortable.
All right, Coach, I'm going to throw one game out for you since we're not going to talk next week since it's a holiday. One game next week, which looks like it's going to be 2 undefeated. It's a game that I'm going to actually go to. Michigan is headed to Ohio State.
And what a great! You're going to that game.
Yeah, my daughter she works for the school, so I'm going up there and we're going to go to the game together. So
where is it?
It's in Columbus.
Golly, what an awesome!
And the weather
that's one of those. And you may have gone before, but that's one of those that's on everyone's bucket list.
Yeah, I've actually never been, but it's like I say, it's going to be 2 undefeateds probably. The weather forecast right now calls for snow showers that morning, so I'm excited.
Hey, at least it ain't Montana.
Yeah.
Man, who's going to win? Yeah, I'm going. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You're saying there's a possibility of snow showers.
Yes.
I haven't watched either much this year, but I feel like that Michigan is a little more of a smash mouth, and I feel like that Ohio State relies a little bit more with executing in space, and if it's going to be really cold and there could be showers, I think that I'll lean to Michigan.
All right.
Hail to the victor.
There we go. I will let her know. And
there's one more really, really big game out there. You go back to the blood, but Texas Tech, Iowa State. You got like whatever it is, 1-9 Iowa State. It's not that bad, but Tech is 1 win away from bowl eligibility, and they're up in Iowa State, which is a really tough place to win. But they need it, so my son can get 1 more month of getting to practice and play this great game.
Sure.
But because if not, they have OU at home next week, which will, if OU doesn't, I think they're at 5 wins. If they don't beat Oklahoma State today, then you could be looking at 2 teams playing for
a bowl
win
bid
to get in. Yeah, which in this day and age, I guess is so. I'm not in that world, but I would think, in terms of recruiting, just having that extra month and being able to sell that you're still practicing, and have kids come watch practice or whatever, it's probably really big in that world too.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. All right, well, we've got you down, and we do want to thank you for your time this year.
It's been awesome.
And your honesty.
Yeah, and everybody that listens always tells us, we're so happy that we get to hear him and his thoughts every week, and it's meant a lot to everybody who gets to listen. So we do thank you for your time.
Well, thank y'all, and I'm sorry that we're not still playing them, obviously. But I'm saying I'm sorry that I'm apologizing to everyone listening that we're not still playing. I wish that I'd have found a way to get that to everyone that loves Allen Eagle football so much and just wants to continue to get to watch them. And I'm deeply saddened that I didn't find a way to get that done. But again, it's I know everyone out there knows that these kids. They did every single thing they could do to give us another week, and I just couldn't find a way to get it done. But I hope that the people are proud of, the kids, what they did. Again, talking about the time, and I do want to say one more thing about them, because you talk about coming in late and how it was difficult on everybody, but really, really difficult on those kids. But then the picture that sometimes can get forgotten is that, Chad came, I'm going to back up to Terry's last year. That was the extended year due to COVID, right? So if you're the seniors of this group, which some of, very few, I guess, but all of them were within the program. And that was the year that got extended. So you go to the eternally long season. Most people after that long season, they had time to catch their breath. They had time to kind of unwind and ease into spring ball, which seemed like it was on you immediately. But you would ease into it and probably approach it a little bit differently because you just got out of football season in the spring. Well, these Allen kids underwent a coaching change during that short transition, so it was pedal to the metal immediately. And then I'm sure, I wasn't here, but I'm sure Chad and them went through spring ball, felt like they're still far behind. They've got to get caught up, so it's full speed, pedal to the metal all summer long. And then you have the season. You probably sit there and you say, okay, we're starting to catch up. We're starting to get our ground. Let's push through hardcore right now through this spring. Kind of unwind a little bit this summer with them, let them get the strength and conditioning, and then we're ready for the season. And then, bam, spring ends. Kids, have been nonstop through that point, and then the day spring ends, there's a change, and it's nonstop from that moment on. I can't even imagine the physical or mental fatigue that the coaches who weathered that storm and the kids who weathered that storm. So as people reflect and look back on what those kids did, it's amazing they were able to do anything in the face of all of that. It just blows me away how they handled it with such class and determination throughout. But anyway, I hope as people see these kids and bump into them, that they're just able to say, man, you've been through an awful lot, and I hope there's some sort of consistency for a while for them.
Appreciate those words, Coach, and you're right, spot on with that with those kids. You can't praise them enough for hanging in there and doing what they had to do to just do something that they love to do. So
that's right, because they had no control over any of the circumstances that they had to deal with.
Exactly. All right. Well, again, we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Coach.
You too, Coach. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, have fun next week at the game.
All right, I'll let you know.
Bless, yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Awesome.
There he was, guys. That's about almost 25 minutes with Coach. And like Alan, I appreciate what you said about him being honest. I think that question of what would you do differently, he almost didn't want to answer it, but then he was being honest.
And it's exactly what I said right before he came on board.
Yeah.
Online with us.
And one thing I thought of, and Alan and I talked about a little bit this week, and you don't remember everything, but you got to go back and look at, when you look at this year's team, the kids that were there, they lost some key players.
Oh, yeah.
You go to the defensive side, not only graduation, but some transfers.
Yep.
When I wrote down too, Michael Momo was a big part of the team last year, and Malachi Thornton. Both of those kids left the program to go elsewhere.
5-star defensive lineman.
DJ Hicks was there, and he left as well. And that's three big pieces that, honestly, outside of Hicks, I'll be honest, and I don't mean to downplay the other two, didn't think about that much when the season started. It's like, okay, we got people to plug in. But those were three big key players last year. And it goes back to what he said earlier about, hey, we only had 10 kids that had any meaningful
experience.
Playing time, at this level when the season started. And that, when I think about that, you're like, okay, that defense took a big hit.
Yep.
And to do what they did, it's, are we disappointed? Heck yeah, all of us are. It's been, I think.
He is.
I think I saw a stat, and I didn't go check it, but I want to say 2002 was the last time that Allen had this many losses in the season, so it's not what you're used to.
Right.
And, of course, everybody, the sky's falling.
We've had a hell of a run.
Pretty much,
we love Kyler, but he was the worst thing that could ever happen to us. Now.
Yeah, looking back.
Yeah. I mean, but
Because
again,
the
we'll still
bar-
take it, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he raised the bar so high, and now that it's not even realistic. Is it? Every team we're becoming a normal team, unlike we were, or during the Kyler. Even 2008, that was a glorious season as well too. But it's just we are becoming the demographics of this town is changing. It's becoming older. It's I think what Coach Wig and his staff did was pretty great. I mean, this year, considering the situation they were put in, again, we're going to have a full off season in place under his tutelage, and as well as spring. And I know that just popped out of my mouth like
Nolan said tutelage.
I did.
That has 3 syllables in it.
And it had the right vowels.
It's great when your vowels work.
Woo!
Oh, hello.
So now I just lost my train of thanks. But no, they got spring game and then off. Oh hell!
Beep.
That's not a beeper.
So the Eagles in the season 7-4. We look forward to seeing everything that is going to happen this offseason. I think, like Coach says, he's got his hands full. Still, it's not because this is his first year here and everything's a little different. And he's
putting a little bigger, more grandiose.
And he's got his hands full, and he's not just sitting in his office.
Tutelage, grandiose. That's pretty. I'm impressive.
That's impressive, isn't it? So until this will be our last football podcast of the year. Speaking of football, let's talk a little bit about our district bunkmates.
Jeez, they're still playing.
All 3 of them rolled again last night. It took Geyer a while to get some separation from Highland Park.
63 points.
They dropped 63 on Randy Allen and Highland Park, and they move on.
Highland Park who?
In that D2 bracket as well, McKinney just beat the snot out of Jesuit.
Way to go, Coach Shavers.
42-7. We'll see how good of a football team they are this week. They get Carroll.
Yeah.
So
you knows.
It
took an Allen kid and a Razorback to get that McKinney team going.
That's what it is.
Woo pig.
Geyer, who won, plays Byron Nelson, which I think will be a very interesting
He was
game.
dead.
Nelson is dead. It's the ghost of Byron Nelson. Byron Nelson, I think, was one of the top 5 high-scoring teams in the area this year.
Really?
Put up a lot of points. So that game, I expect to be a very high-scoring affair. That should be very interesting.
Do we know where?
Not yet. Yeah. And then Prosper plays North Crowley, who's undefeated.
Not going to be a game.
And North Crowley is the team that we scrimmaged.
Yeah.
And we kind of were wondering at that point, because that scrimmage didn't go very well in my mind for Allen, and I was wondering, okay, does Allen just have issues, or is North Crowley pretty good? And come find out,
they're pretty good.
North Crowley is pretty good. So Prosper and North Crowley, which Coach said he thought Prosper and Lewisville would play in that regional final. Lewisville did win last night 10-0 on a game that was on TV. I watched most of it. 10-0, they shut out a guy, that Martin team, and that was just amazing to me. And they did it with 166 yards of total offense. That's all they had. Martin played well, and Martin just couldn't do anything right. And I told Nolan, Lewisville kicked a field goal early in the game. In the fourth quarter, Martin had to punt, and they punted rugby style, and the punt was to go to the right, but when he kicked the ball, he hooked it, and it went to the left. And so all the Martin guys were running to the right, and that number 1, Hardy, Jaden Hardy for Lewisville, picks it up, and there is nobody. And he runs, and he gets tackled about the 9-yard line. They end up scoring, make it 10-0, and their defense just flat out shut them out.
Wow.
So they play the winner of Keller and an El Paso team, and I didn't write it down. This is the game today. So I can see that Lewisville team. Keller was 8-2 to start the playoffs. I can see Lewisville making it to to face up against Prosper, which would then be a very, very interesting defensive game. I mean, that they may go into overtime with nobody scoring. I don't know, because Prosper plays defense so well. So that's rolling along in our side of the bracket with our bunkmates, and see how they do. It just shows what a strong district this was.
Absolutely.
From top to bottom. Switching gears to basketball, we all went to the basketball game Tuesday night.
Missed out, man.
Against Northwest Eaton.
It's a fun freaking team to watch, man.
Folks, let me tell you, if you love basketball, or even if you don't, come see this team play. They've gotten much taller, very athletic.
So Archie's playing center now? Is that what you're saying?
Archie is running the point from the center. Archie's burying threes left and right.
Oh, my gosh.
They blew out.
Miss.
They blew out Eaton by 40. In just the amount of athletes, I told Nolan and David were there. I said, they're so athletic and they're very long, because they got 3 guys. 4, I think, that are 6'7" and above.
Yeah.
6'8" Spitzer,
and they're all athletic.
Yeah, they're all very athletic. And then, you've got your cast of Archie's back, Trent Payne's back, Caden.
And Remy.
Femi is back. Femi is hurt.
Oh, wow.
But from what I understand, he was at the game, and his left or right, I don't remember which eye it was swollen shut. And he got elbowed in a pickup game at the gym, and it was swollen shut. I asked one of the coaches, I said, which one of you punched him? He said, no, it was a pickup game.
Check.
He didn't play Tuesday, and he hasn't played in the tournament. They've been down in Houston this week. He hasn't played at all. I can't see, so he's out right now, but he'll be back. And Femi's one of the starters, and so they did go down to the McDonald's tournament, and they lost their first 2 games. They lost to Manville, or actually they played Hightower first and lost by 7, and then they played Manville and lost by 7. So they dropped them down into the bronze bracket yesterday, and they won 2 games yesterday, so they're in the finals of the bronze bracket today at 3 o'clock. They beat Tompkins and Pearland yesterday. And they played a lot of people. I was telling Nolan, I think they took some JV players down there, because there were some people playing that I didn't recognize from the other night. So I think they expanded their roster.
And it's
so they play
time to do it.
Yeah, they play at 3 today for the championship of the bronze bracket. The girls team has been in Hoop Fest this week there at Allen, and they lost their second game to the team that I think is going to win it all, Monterey. They're really good. And so they dropped them down into the whatever other bracket is, but they are playing today at 3 as well against Hebron for 5th place at 3 o'clock. So if you want to watch the boys team, it is on, if you go to texasinvitational.com, and you can click the link for the Division I bracket or the gold bracket. That's the bracket they're in, and then you'll see the gyms are all listed there, and you can click on the one and you can watch the game. There's no announcers, but you can just see everything, so you can see the game at 3. The girls play here at home at 3, so feel free to get down there and watch that. Next week, on the 22nd, which I guess is Wednesday, Alan is going to be over at the Chad's Media Invitational in Sulphur Springs, and I think they play at 5 o'clock. I have to recheck the schedule, but it might be worth a trip over to Sulphur Springs on Wednesday to go see them. That's a really big tournament over there, hosted by SIP's Old School.
23rd.
23rd?
Or did you say the 22nd?
22nd.
That's Tuesday.
Okay, Tuesday then. Tuesday, yeah, is when they play there, and then they're going to do the Thanksgiving Hoop Fest down in Duncanville, and then the next home game is on the 29th, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. They play Hebron at home. So make sure and drop by and see those guys, because it's really fun. They're very entertaining, and they play a lot of guys. So it's a fun team to watch. And
you had some alley-oop attempts that didn't make it, but
they'll get that figured
They'll
out.
get that figured
You
out.
can tell it was early.
Did you say the 29th is a home game?
Yeah.
Yes, it is against Hebron, the Hebron Hawks. You gonna be around for that? Look at there, that's awesome. Hebron Hawks. So, we will be on from time to time, not weekly now, with additional podcasts as we have material that would fit. We're still going to try to get the Coach's Wife podcast put together. We've had problems getting their schedules coordinated as they have a lot of responsibilities, which should be a little lessened now that football season's over, but we'll get them all out here. We're looking forward to that. We think that'll be fun. And anything else that comes along our way as we get closer to the state championship, we might sit down, get some of our media buddies in here with us and talk about those games when they get to that point, closer we get to Christmas, and we'll go from there. So, for all our listeners, we thank you, appreciate you.
Still recording?
We're still recording.
Good.
I've been watching that closely. We appreciate you listening and passing this along to others and subscribing and just being here every year that we do this. So, we did get, and I feel honored by this, we did get called a bunch of loudmouths by somebody on the board the other day.
Yes, we did.
And I was like, I responded back and I said, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
The board.
The Texas 6A football forum.
We do broach that still every once in a while.
Yeah. And so somebody who isn't an Allen fan called us a bunch of loudmouths, which made me tell me.
Who had a grand total of 3 posts.
Which told me he listened. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, thanks for listening.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
appreciate it. We don't care who listens.
We gave Lewisville kudos.
Yeah.
So.
Congrats to them and congrats to their win last night, a
Yep.
shutout in the playoffs against a pretty good team.
Yep.
Go do it next week, too.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, everybody, enjoy your time with your families and be thankful for what you have. Stay warm and keep jamming. Until next time, we'll see you, and we are out.